Assalamu alaikum dear students, I hope you are doing well. In today's video we are going to discuss about protagonist and antagonist. We will try to differentiate both today and we will try to give examples, as well as I am going to discuss very important thing, that is the Aristotle definition of protagonist and antagonist. We will try to discuss also other components that are related to protagonist and antagonist. So let's start. What is protagonist? The general definition of protagonist: the protagonist is the main character in a story who drives the plot forward. The plot, you know that the series of events is the plot. The protagonist is necessary for the plot, making the plot of the story. Got it? This character usually has a goal or desire that motivates their actions throughout the narrative. Means there is a goal set for the protagonist, the hero, and the hero is struggling to achieve that goal throughout the story. So actions of the protagonist is for achieving that goal. That is the protagonist actually. The protagonist's journey is central to the story, and their experiences shape the overall plot. The experiences of the protagonist make the overall plot of the story. We have already discussed that. Now we will have example from literature. We will see that you know that you have read this book Harry Potter from J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. So Harry is, you know, that the main character of the story. We can say Harry is the central character who faces challenges and pursues the goal of defeating Voldemort. Voldemort is another character in the story, and he Harry tries to defeat Voldemort in the story. His journey and growth are focus of the series. There are series and the plot, that is the plot, and the character aids information to the plot of the story. Now antagonist, the general definitions of the antagonist: the antagonist is the character or force that opposes the protagonist and creates conflict. You know that protagonist and antagonists are opposite always. The protagonist struggles for achieving the goal, and the antagonist opposes the protagonist and creates a conflict. This opposition is essential for driving the story's tension and its challenges, and this opposition of the characters drives the story in tension and challenges. The antagonist's action or influences are what the protagonist must overcome. What are the intention of antagonists? What are the actions of antagonists? The protagonist is working for the achievement of the goal, and whatever will come on the way of the protagonist, and the protagonist will try to overcome each and everything and try to achieve the goal. This is protagonist. Example of antagonist. And what is antagonist? We will see Voldemort from J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. This character is antagonist. Voldemort opposes Harry and creates obstacles that Harry must confront throughout the story. His actions drive the central conflict of the series. What the Aristotle, the famous critic, the writer, what the philosopher says about the protagonist? Aristotle defines the protagonist as the central character who undergoes a significant change in fortune. He said the protagonist should be a character who undergoes a change in fortune from good to bad. This means the protagonist's journey involves personal information due to their actions. They are central to the plot's progression. Who says? Aristotle says that. Actually, according to Aristotle, the protagonist means that the person, the character who works from good to bad, means condition of the person is always good. He is struggling to achieve the good, the goal, but if he is going towards the bad for the achievement of that goal, again he or she is working to achieve that goal, is called the protagonist according to Aristotle. And what Aristotle says about antagonist, we are going to discuss now. Aristotle described the antagonist is a force that opposes the protagonist. This is already discussed. He stated the antagonist is the character or force that provides the obstacle or opposition to the protagonist. This opposition is crucial because creates conflict and it drives the narrative. The antagonist's role is to challenge the protagonist and enhance the story tension. Uh, the work of the protagonist in the story is that the protagonist is always working for the achievement of the goal. For example, what goal is set in the story. The antagonist always work. The villain always work to oppose the protagonist, the hero, and creates the conflict. But the hero, the protagonist, always works to achieve that goal, the goal that is set for the protagonist. If the person, if any person comes in the way of the protagonist, but protagonist has never to forgive anything for any person, if there is any problem obstacle uh, in the way of protagonist. Now, the role of the protagonist. What is the role of protagonist in the story or in the film, drama, any book, anywhere? Okay, story means that the protagonist is the character with whom the audience most often connects. Protagonist, you know that we always have seen different movies. If you are Urdu, you can see the movies of Shan. You can see other movies as well. If you are a Hindi speaker, you can see the movies of different Indian actors. So we always see the hero is always the favorite character of the audience. You know that they force obstacle, make important decisions, and experience growth throughout the story. Their actions and choices are essential for moving the plot forward. This is the actually the role of the this was the role of the protagonist. The role of antagonist. What is the role of antagonist? The antagonist introduces challenges and obstacles that the protagonist must overcome. The problems, the problems the antagonist creates, produces, so the protagonist must overcome these obstacles, these problems come in the way of the protagonist. The character or force is vital for creating the story's conflict, whether it is a rival, societal norms, or internal struggles. The antagonist helps to highlight the protagonist's qualities and drive the plot. Means actually the uh, antagonist is the helper to portray, or we can say to convey the message by the protagonist. Okay, the relationship between protagonist and antagonist, the dynamic between the protagonist and antagonist is crucial for the story's development. Their conflict propels the plot and then reveals deeper themes. Their interactions are what make the narrative engaging and keep the audience interested. Means what is actually the relationship between protagonist and antagonist means that they are creating different events in the story, and the audience are being connected to watch or to read the stories. Okay, this is the relationship. Character complexity. Sometimes this can happen. Both protagonist and antagonist benefit from being complex. A well developed protagonist has strengths and weaknesses, while a strong antagonist has clear motivations and is not just a simple villain. Okay, are you getting me or not? Please, we will read this again, then you will understand. Both protagonist and antagonist benefit from being complex. A well developed protagonist has strengths and weaknesses, while a strong antagonist has clear motivations and is not just a simple villain. This complexity adds depth to the story and make it more compelling. Protagonist benefit from being complex. A well developed protagonist has strengths. Protagonist must have strengths and weaknesses, while strong antagonist has clear motivations. means motivates the protagonist, is not just a simple villain, and only the antagonist is not a villain simple but has motivations. This complexity adds depth to the story. This makes the story interesting and compel the readers, the audience, to watch or to read the stories. Okay, examples from literature and film. Okay, consider Macbeth from Shakespeare's play. Macbeth is the protagonist who deals with his ambition and moral dilemmas. The forces against him, including his own actions and the consequences of his decisions, represent the antagonist elements. Okay, these are antagonist elements, whereas Macbeth was protagonist in the story, but he is having the weaknesses that must be characteristics of a villain, the antagonist, but Macbeth was having these characters. Common misconceptions. It is a common misconception that antagonist must be purely evil or that protagonist must be perfect. Everyone says that protagonist must be perfect and antagonist must be evil, but it's not reality. In reality, both roles can be complex and flawed. Effective storytelling often involves characters who are neither entirely good nor entirely bad, but are driven by their motivations and conflict. Okay, there is a tip for writers. Okay, when creating protagonists and antagonists, focus on giving them clear goals and motivations. Make sure they are the well developed and contribute to the story's themes. Detailed and realistic characters make for a more engaging narrative, or you can say story. So this is end of the story. This is end of this lecture. I hope that you people have understood each and everything in this story. If there is any question, you people can ask in the comment section. Thank you so much. And once again, I will request you people that please do subscribe to my channel. This is very much helpful for me, and as well as I hope that it will be helpful for you people. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.